what happens when government agents with deadly superpowers discover that they're both the hunters and the hunted? I'm going to tell you how I turned this idea into a full manga volume in just 6 months, including losing 500 gigabytes of artwork and data somewhere halfway through all of that. So creating manga is unlike any other form of storytelling that I've ever tackled before. Prior to my manga making journey, I had written books, several of them under a pen name that I'm absolutely not going to share, and I did pretty well for myself. I'd done character designs and illustrations and all sorts of things like that, you name it. But manga, it's a different beast entirely. To make manga from scratch, you need to consider so many things that just don't exist in writing a novel. While novels and manga require compelling scripts, manga requires designing memorable characters and considering dynamic panel layouts and creating page after page after page of detailed artwork and doing it all on a consistent schedule so that you don't fade into internet obscurity. Needless to say, when I started this journey, I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. My first day was back in April when I started the first chapter, and it was a complete wake-up call. After 8 hours of drawing, I had completed 3 panels, just 3. And anyone who's familiar with manga knows that that's barely a fraction of a page, let alone anywhere near being close to finishing a chapter. At that rate, I would never finish a volume. So I knew I needed some kind of system. I'd start with a script of the chapter that I was working on, and I would make sure the script is as detailed as possible. Cues, camera angles. I wanted to make sure that it was such that when I went back to it, to ink, I knew what the hell was going on in my mind when I came up with that story idea. So then I went into storyboards from scripting. I initially started making those as detailed as I could because the great Hiromashima said that if your storyboards are detailed, it could help you practice anatomy and fundamentals. And then I would go into inking, where I would ink characters first and then backgrounds last. I did this over and again, and I used the Pomodoro technique, which if you're not familiar with that, that's 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break, review progress, then repeat. I did this over and over and over again for every page, for every chapter. And slowly but surely, I noticed that things started clicking. The original 3 panels that I started with, it turned into 1 page. And then 1 page became 2, and 2 became 3, until my daily maximum output was 3 pages per day. It tripled. And my art evolved because of this, and things like my character expressions became more nuanced. Whenever I drew an action sequence, I felt like it looked more dynamic. I just learned how to use space and movement on the page a lot more effectively. And right when I thought that things were getting up and up for me, I was on chapter 3 and moving to chapter 4, I was feeling good. My hard drive failed. I had a massive hard drive catastrophe and 500 gig went poof in an instant. Several months of raw Clip Studio files, everything, character reference sheets, storyboards, scripts, just gone, just completely gone. But here's what losing everything taught me about creating manga. It taught me, number 1, to have several copies of a backup, which you would think I would know that, but now I do. It told me how to rebuild efficiently, how to get yourself back on track. Why detailed planning matters, because while I lost a lot of artwork, I still had every single bit of my story notes because I used Notion. And it most importantly taught me that when you have a long-term journey like I do of publishing as a multi-volume manga series, you're going to experience hiccups along the way, but you shouldn't let that beat you down. You shouldn't let it stop you and discourage you from reaching that goal. So it made me work harder, and surprisingly, I managed to pull myself up from the depths of despair even more confident than ever. And my work got better. Cleaner lines, better composition, and what I feel is stronger storytelling. And it made me feel like, well, sometimes a reset is exactly what you need. And all of these elements came together in my manga, Ye Olde Treehouse. Every single page represents this journey from those early 3 panel days to now completing 3 and 4 pages daily. And the story of my superpowered agents facing impossible odds, it really became my own story of perseverance and growth and embarking on something that seems insurmountable and keeping yourself focused and motivated. Consistency beats perfection every single time. And trust the process even when it seems impossible. If you're someone who wants to make a manga too, do it. And start small, but definitely start now. Start today. And if you're curious to see how this all came together, you can read Ye Olde Treehouse on Global Comics. I release new chapters tri-weekly, but because this is the last chapter of the first volume, I'm, patting myself on the back and going on a little break. And volume 1 is complete and ready for you to binge. Now, remember those 3-panel days that I started with? Well, the last chapter took just 8 days to complete, and it's 24 pages. So progress is possible. You just have to show up.